for young trans and non-binary children to instruct mental health assessments of their patients by the 30th of June 2024. After the assessment, the children will be asked to stop gender-affirming care, or they may be subjected to safeguarding referrals, essentially forcing them into medically detransitioning. It also advises that if trans children under 18 are found to be using unregulated and overseas gender-affirming care, they will also be advised to stop, or else they'll be subjected to safeguarding referrals. This is absolutely unacceptable, and we need to make noise on this.
Quite quiet today. One or two trying to block them
and we
from
must
filming,
campaign
but
to stop this, as this is again a direct result of the CAS review. The CAS review in itself is extremely biased and based on unscientific evidence and has been supported by many known anti-trans organisations and trans exclusionary radical feminists, including J.K. Rowling, Sex Matters, Maya Forster, Kemi Badenoch and more. On Thursday, the Minister of Women and Equality is seeking examples of policy or guidance in which public bodies wrongly suggest that people have illegal access
I think the guy holding the cardboard was blocking
according to their self-identified gender. This means that Kemi Badenoch is single-handedly running a campaign to try and further ban trans people from single-sex spaces, in particular trans women. This is abhorrent, and we must oppose this action. This is in complete violation of the 2010 Equality Act, and we can see that the likes of Kemi Badenoch are trying to twist the current legislation we have in place to fuel her own personal vendetta against trans people. So-called feminists are claiming their rights are being taken away from them, yet we can clearly see that only people whose rights are being infringed on are those of the transgender community. We can blame the likes of Hilary Cass for fueling the ongoing culture war that is threatening the safety of trans people in the UK. In terms of the CAS review, they rejected 101 out of 103 studies that were submitted on the basis that these studies were too biased, yet they have worked with known anti-trans lobbyists and supporters of conversion therapy. What does this mean? Well, the methodology of the CAS review was only stated to include studies where they recommended a double-blind placebo for hormone therapy. This means they would have only accepted studies in which there would have been a group of young trans people that were not given hormones alongside a group of young trans people that were given hormones. This practice is generally inhumane and would have caused significant mental distress to the trans people who were not given life-saving hormones. Not only would this have caused distress, it would never have made it past an ethics committee as a result. I believe that the reason they stated the guidelines in such a way is so they could easily reject the multiple studies that showed that gender-affirming care is life-saving in favour of their own transphobic agenda. The report was independent, but we can clearly see that this report was heavily biased. There is one part of the report that states that young boys play with trucks and that young girls play with dolls. How on earth are we meant to take any of this pseudoscience seriously when we know for a fact that life simply does not work this way? It is another example of enforcing traditional and outdated gender roles, and I honestly cannot understand how anyone can take this report so seriously. It is completely unserious, and we should not be using such a mockery of a review to decide whether trans people deserve to exist or not. Thank you. Cass further stated that we should be careful with how we approach transgender healthcare, and she recommends in her report that trans people should not be able to make decisions on their own body up to the age of 25. 25 is when your brain is developed, it's disproved pseudoscience. I'm sorry, you can get married, join the army, own a car and vote, but you cannot control your own bodily autonomy up until the age of 25. What an absolute joke. This report is poppycock and we know it. Not only this, but there have been many different researchers and contributors to this so-called scientific report who fully support modern-day conversion therapy for LGBT people. How on earth are we at a point where people with these views still get a say or are generally taken seriously? Furthermore, the CAS report also states we should take great care with neurodivergence and gender identity, as if neurodivergent people aren't able to make autonomous decisions about their own gender and body. Just so we can have a clearer idea of the people who reject this review as gospel, we've had many statements against the review from different professional bodies. Firstly, the British Association of Gender Identity Specialists have released a statement confirming they believe the review is harmful to the future of trans healthcare. GIRES Chair Kat Horton was also invited to participate on the CAST review, and this is her comment. I was invited to consult with the CAST review. After 3 discussions, it was obvious that the review had been written before we started. She totally discounted evidence from trans people from the basis of knowledge or lived experience. Additionally, therapists against conversion therapy and transphobia have released a statement condemning the CAST review and its association with known conversion therapy supporters. Neurodivergent academic Abs S. Ashley critiques the insidious mobilisation of neurodivergence to undermine the agency of transgender people in the UK's recently published independent review of gender identity services for children and young people. The Feminist Gender Equality Network has also written a letter from concerned academics urging the NHS to not make recommendations based on the inaccurate findings of the CAST review. Finally, the Trans Safety Network has also expressed disdain for the CAST review's finding and has also condemned the Royal College of General Practitioners' recent advice. The reason why I'm stood up here today speaking is because I know for a fact gender-affirming care does save lives. In 2019, I was so lost knowing that I was on a long-winded waiting list to be seen by Leeds Gender Identity Services. I was a bit stumped on what to do, so I started researching online and could see I was able to self-refer myself to a local endocrinologist called Dr. Hammond in Harrogate Hospital. I met up with him in spring 2019 and he made recommendations based on our conversations, and I was so lucky to be put on a bridging prescription of hormones at the time. If this didn't happen, I would not be where I am today. This was a life-changing step for me. It helped me to become the woman that I am today. I can stand proudly knowing that I'm a transgender woman to my core. I fully believe that every single trans person deserves the opportunity that I have experienced. And the reason I mobilise this rally today is so that those who come after me can feel assured that their community supports them and we all love them. I love my trans sisters, brothers and siblings. We must rise up against the system which is trying to remove us from existence. Even before the CAST review, our system was not the best, so we need everyone's support in creating a better system in which our healthcare is taken seriously and given the utmost care to ensure trans youth have the tools to transition safely and confidently. So what can you do as an ally? You must talk about this. If there's one thing I want you all to take away from this, is that we want you to support, protect and help us. Please, if you have any power in your community, go out there and talk about the injustices you have witnessed today. Speak to your friends, your family, your co-workers. I need you all to write to your local MPs, and I'd encourage you to research who you're voting for and make sure that they share the opinion that trans people have a right to live a full life as who they are in the general elections. We must make change together. Without you, we do not have the numbers or the power to change anything. Join us in our fight against a healthcare system that is trying to erase us. I would also like to take a moment to thank and introduce the other speakers who have joined us today to speak about their personal struggles, journeys and their experiences with the trans healthcare system in the UK. Please listen carefully to what they have to say. We have so many great people here today to talk about their cause. Additionally, I would just like to give a huge shout out to the Leeds student encampment at the Uni of Leeds. They have been actively campaigning all week and have additionally lent us sound equipment for today. Unfortunately, there was an incident a couple of days ago where the security at Leeds University attacked protesters on campus. I would just like to say that we stand in solidarity with the protesters, and we commend their efforts to call Leeds University out for their complicit part in genocide. Free Palestine!
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for the massive turnout here. It's lovely to see everyone together standing against this ridiculous review. The Cass Review is nothing less than an attack on the bodily autonomy of all trans people, marking us out as different and corrupt and perverse and having our motivations, our agendas questioned. Trans children have become another sacrifice in the so-called culture war that turns trans people into acceptable targets for political gesturing and security instead of people. I can tell you all about my experiences as a trans child. I realized I was trans at roughly 12 or 13, and I could very easily describe the misery I felt watching my body change for years while there was nothing that I could do, hating myself and having to detach from my life because I knew this wasn't me, but there was nothing to do but wait. And I could tell you about finally becoming an adult and going to the GP and asking if I could be put on the waiting list and being told I would have to wait for roughly 8 years and to dip into my pockets to go private for £4,000 that I don't have. But the truth is that even if I say that, my feelings are not going to be enough to change the minds of the people who put this in place because they do not care about our feelings. I could recount the science that says that gender-affirming care for trans kids saves lives, reduces suicide, reduces self-harm rates. I could explain how hormone blockers have been used for years on cis kids as well, how there is no adverse effects, how that's already been proven in multiple studies. But the truth is, if we were here to talk about the science, we wouldn't have to be here at all. Because the Cass Review, because ultimately, the Cass Review is not about science. The Cass Review is a symptom of this government that does not care about the lives of the people. This is a government that has been trying to pass an archaic bill deporting refugees to Rwanda, including trans refugees, who means trans individuals will be deported to a country that is unsafe for them. This is a country that has had its hat on disability rights, recently again going after PIP after already been having told they are humiliating disabled people in an international court, again going for that, meaning trans individuals who struggle enough with employment and job security will again, trans disabled individuals will again have their income sliced. This is a country funneling money out that we need for NHS into genocides in Palestine, in Congo, in the Sudan. Trans rights is just another battle that this government uses to show that it does not care about the people. And this fight for trans liberation is global. From Singapore, where trans people are being locked up in jails, to Kenya, where bills being funded by the USA are passed, the USA itself, which has its own battles about trans children and their right to live a life that they choose.
Oh, they think everyone with that's what we're called yesterday, I know. But no, it's because they see white people and that's what they think. They don't realise everyone, I mean, I'd argue most of these are neutral anyway, don't care. They're just doing it to white people up at the most. And it's silly. Because at the end of the day, they get the people are going to listen and they can make their own side because, you know, they're wanting their own voice. I don't know. I'm too tired to care today. I'm shattered.
And I'm a trans kid who turned into an adult. So I'm saying we're not going to be fire. We are not going to sit here as they take away our rights and ignore our voices. And we are not going to let them target the most vulnerable in our community, the kids. Trans kids will grow up to become trans elders.
Look at that, they might be the ones troubled, but you want a bit of fun.
Our right to exist and the very idea of freedom itself. This rally is not only for us here today, but for the young people nationwide and for generations to come. I applaud you all and thank you for being here today.
individuals working within further education, working with trans youth. Seeing the imminent harm the cash review will cause to the students and young people across the UK, I feel it's my duty to use my voice to give them a voice, to make the voice of those most marginalised affected and heard. To briefly summarise and to not retread ground as speeches of public authority, the CAS report was undertaken by Hillary Cass in 2020 as commissioned by NHS England to review trans-related healthcare for under 18s. The recently published final review study is deeply concerning in a variety of factors regarding flawed methodology, discounting of key evidence, unacceptable bias, purposely excluding trans voices, advocation of conversion therapy, notable dubious political ties, and scientifically unsupported outcomes. This has led many well-versed medical professionals, psychiatric and therapeutic associations, academics, and educational institutes, as well as the lived experiences of trans people, to not only find the CAS review faulty, but with the capacity to cause great deals of harm and trauma to trans youth, and to be rightfully condemned. Denying the bodily autonomy, the right to the self-determination of those most marginalised, those very much targeted by this review in its seething display of anti-trans rhetoric. To say it frankly and transparently, recommendations from the review suggest the following: a complete ban on NHS access to puberty blockers for cis and trans youth alike, the legitimisation of conversion therapy, intrusive and abusive assessments regarding trans identity, an immediate removal of 17-year-old access to adult healthcare clinics, clinical control over social transition, restrictions on private healthcare, and to forbid trans identity to neurodiverse people such as with autism and ADHD. This poorly conducted review ultimately aims through its campaign to roll back trans freedoms, rights, and especially access to life-saving healthcare in an attempt to medically legislate trans existence out of public eye and out of existence by targeting and worsening access to gender-affirming healthcare for people under the age of 25 in the UK, dressed up in the guise of reasonableness and duty of care. We must speak out and raise awareness for the incredibly damaging conclusions this review proposes. But as we speak today, in the here and now, the Royal College of General Practitioners has proposed new guidance in line with the CAS review to attempt to avert GPs from prescribing bridging hormones or actioning dose changes as indicated by blood monitoring, meaning the restriction of life-saving gender-affirming healthcare and the denial of the needs of our existence. Yet legislation championed by both Conservative and Labour governments generating further apathy and distrust to the very systems that be, and a denial of the potential for a bright and fulfilling life to those that would suffer under the implementation of this guidance. The reality of coming to terms with one's transness, not only with the feelings of otherness and separation from one's own body, from the understanding that you will be stepping into a world that seeks to demonize you, ostracize you, cause you harm, cause you pain, simply for being true to one's identity and volition for happiness, joy, and community. In the face of that is harrowing, to say the very least. This I may speak from my own personal experience, yet having someone reach out to tell you that you belong in this world, to soothe your dread in telling you that your life is worth living, that you can experience a meaningful and fulfilling life alongside your friends, your peers, your community, despite your differences, can help so very much. In my own experience in education, as a student coming to terms with my own identity as a trans woman, and to have those feelings supported and affirmed, to have my needs met and encourage my academic growth in spite of in spite of the hardship I faced by staff, by pastoral support, by peers. The difference it made not only to the improvement of my mental health and well-being, but to the academic potential and ability to succeed in pursuing a career I am so deeply passionate about. As an educator, I wish to support, to the best of my ability, those going through the same struggles as I once did, with my whole heart.
Great hope, check them out folks, check them out.
Working as an educator, a key foundation is the ability to foster an inclusive learning environment so that young people in education, regardless of background, such as socioeconomic status, race, religion, gender identity, and sexual orientation, have the ability to succeed and follow their passions, that they may live a meaningful, free, and fulfilling life. In reality, however, there exist multiple barriers to learning which must be addressed on the part of the educator to allow students to thrive. In the past decade, the rise in the number of transgender students has steadily increased, and with that, the individual challenges trans youth face within education on all levels. The challenges of having the entire world against you and your identity, you yourself not holding a modicum of power, not only to wake up each day and step out into the world with the potential of violence and hatred looming over your every action, but in the area with which you were raised in, grew up in, to navigate such a very fine line in your own house, in your living space itself. The challenges faced by the necessity of stealth, of concealing your identity to those who provide for you, putting a roof over your head and food on the table, that even the slightest indication or provocation of your transness leading to a world of uncertainty, not only the lack of welcomeness or safety in one's own living space, but of constant conflicts of rejection, isolation, and infantilization of one's identity as a trans youth, but the possible denial of that living space entirely, if one is steadfast in seeking their own solace in who they are as a person, forced to fend for themselves in this unforgiving, uncaring world at such a young age. The challenges of being denied the very light to the life-saving healthcare you so deserve, to be forced to endure an unending limbo of waiting lists just to prove that you are valid in your identity, forcibly made to grovel to the whims of those who hold all the power in the world, to you as you are. It's getting a bit awkward now with this. Made to prove your transness, your experience, your identity, that it ticks all the necessary boxes, that you may be fortunate enough to be granted the luxury of healthcare and medication that makes your life worth living. Time passes, the seemingly endless duration of waiting lists being prolonged. Year after year, the changes, the alien changes of your body continue. Yet you know who you are, who you want to be. After years of internal, agonizing introspection of one's gender, and yet we are powerless to halt this alien metamorphosis of your own body. For you as a youth do not have the financial power to seek treatment to aid your woes, and not given the luxury of urgency to halt these changes, that you may inhabit a body in line with your being. Time passes, years pass, your body changing each day in a way that does not feel right, reaching a point on your 18th birthday where your progress is set back to square one, to be transferred to the adult clinic and have your painstaking wait be a fortunate reality for a vast majority of trans youth. And so with these lived realities of trans youth, these challenges they face, they take their step into education to follow their passions of a better life, not only academically or for vocational potential, but for socialization. The ability to have a space where they can make friends, talk about their interests, have fun with their peers, and engage with their passions in spite of the hardship. In acknowledging these hardships, the role of the educator in supporting trans students is not only to recognise their identity, but to champion their diversity within the classroom, to afford them the basic respect they deserve of their name, of their gender, and the material facilities in which they inhabit. Every day I walk into work greeted by the radiating joy from the trans students I teach, that within the space of the campus they are equals with their peers, that they have a voice, the ability to succeed and spend time with the friends they have made, that their joy and support they receive allows them to try their best to further their passions and look towards a brighter future that we may foster as educators. Their transness is not a limiting factor with the hardships they face, but another facet of multi-layered individuals growing up in this world. For their community. I wish for a world, a future, in which these young people can thrive, that the joy I have witnessed them experience in their transness, they may live openly and freely without fear of harm, violence, or discrimination. Yet, as part of the curriculum nationwide, there is a necessity to deliver content regarding British values, most importantly, that of democracy. Yet whenever such ideas of democracy arise within the classroom, an inevitable question I have seen brought up from students is that of trans rights. Discussion of such topics, if even taken seriously, mind you, with a with a narrative on a political and medical level presented solely within the realms of power by cis people, and a very telling reality of a lack of trans voices leading the conversation as to our bodily autonomy, our right to exist, and our future itself, especially with the shared understanding of powerlessness of trans people, that we are beholden to our cis counterparts within society, that not only our entire existence being dictated by the whims of cis people, but that as trans individuals we do not have the liberty to speak out, to have the ability to critique our treatment within education, within labour, within society against cis people without fearing the severe repercussions of how we will be treated and the lack of opportunities we will be granted if we speak out. That we must be grateful to even be here and exist today. Shared feelings like this generate something far more sinister than hatred, that apathy. Apathy that whatever change we make to improve our lives, that the result will be the same, that there will be no lasting impact, that regardless of the course of history as it presents the possibility of change for a better future, that change will not be granted, that change will not be granted to not only us today, but to trans youth nationwide, that their future for joy will be continually legislated away. These attacks we face coming from all sides of our existence in an attempt to segregate, isolate, and hide our existence from cis public eye. In education, recent draft guidance has been floated by the Department of Education regarding the treatment of gender-questioning children, with many educators seeking the best ways in which to support trans youth. The draft guidance itself, as with the CAS review, attempts to justify by pseudoscientific claims of bioessentialism and inconsistency at odds with the existing protections such as the 2010 Equality Act. Gender reassignment is a protected characteristic under this Act and is established through case law as part of the Human Rights Act. However, the guidance states that there is no necessity or obligation to call students by their name or pronouns if different than those prescribed with your birth, leading to no recourse by educators of intentional dead naming, misgendering, and open hostilities in inflicting harm against the student's legally protected characteristics. In order to make the changes necessary regarding the student's name and pronouns, sustained and repeated requests are to be made. The effect of this leading to youth not feeling they have a voice, to feelings of hopelessness and despair that even within their place of education they are not taken seriously. In the guidance's advocacy for sex-based rights, it states that parents need to be informed if their child's clothes are sex-appropriate for school. But what is sex-appropriate clothing? The conflation of gender and sex in this regard seeks to police the clothing and presentation of what a student may wear to school, if it is appropriately masculine or feminine in line with the student's sex. Lastly, parental consent is required in the majority of cases mentioned above for a student to any aspect of presentation, of identity, and requires teachers to inform parents of any meaningful changes made in pursuit of these changes. The incredibly dangerous and harmful potential this guidance reports will lead to trans youth being outed and harmed, and assumes that both educational institutes and parents should not respect the wishes, the students' wishes, nor identity. This only leads to further repression and invisibility faced by trans youth, and to be suppressed until they legally reach adulthood. All of the above applies to sixth form and colleges, meaning that students of age 16 to as old as 18 will be beholden to this enforced guidance, despite the fact that you can legally change your name at 16, access sexual services without parental consent from 13, change your gender marker legally and use whatever pronouns, honorifics, and name one may choose. This is not even to mention the rights afforded to cis people at these ages. The right to legally marry, to have children, to smoke and buy alcohol, to serve in the military and to drive. This guidance, hand in hand with the proposed CAS review, seeks to marginally increase the difficulty in the educational setting, more so that, thank you very much, anywhere else. Further silencing, ostracizing, and isolating those most affected with these policies. In the denial of social and medical autonomy, the legislation seeks to further ostracize and deny the right of so many of their autonomy, their right to being itself. The lack of access and segregation of medical rights and duty of care will further exacerbate the pain felt by trans youth, and those with the ability to do so are already taking their medical autonomy into their own hands. I can see no happy future for trans youth if these pieces of legislation are to be enacted. I believe in a future of change, of development. I believe in a future of this country for the youth of today most marginalized, a future in which we may one day rise up and shed the shackles denying our right to live, to see our own medical needs met and grant our own autonomy and freedom that we so desperately require, to pave a way for a progressive future, a future that seeks to provide a voice to the voiceless, one that does not falter from bigotry, the hatred and lack of understanding of the past, that generations of trans youth need not suffer the pain, the anxiety, the dread and fear brought on by legislation of the CAS review that seeks to attack their very right to live, to be happy, to be free. Change starts with all of us, in the here and now, with all the wonderful, hard-working, compassionate people gathered here today to fight for such a noble cause, with fervor in your hearts and a dream of virtuous justice for freedom of those most marginalized. Today we stand together in solidarity to speak out against the harm and dangerous reality the CAS review seeks to cause. The fight does not end with this rally here today, but must continue with the fires lit within your hearts to enact material change that may end the oppression we face in our trans youth. The attacks facing trans youth from all sides without a voice to fight back. We must deny this attack with the very fibre of our being, to protect the joy, the whimsy, so that trans youth may lead meaningful lives and their needs met. So I say to you all today, please stand with us in our fight against injustice. raise awareness of the harm caused by the cash review and the guidance proposed by the Department of Education. Write to your local politicians stating the harm that this legislation will cause and your lack of support for them otherwise. Build strong unions with the trans community and continue to organise so that we may see more events like this, speaking truth to power. Finally, be there and support the trans people, the trans youth in your lives. I wish to see the sun rise on the day that we may shed off this political apathy, that we may live to see the day that our rights are championed, that the trans youth of today and future generations may be given a voice and ability to fight for their rights and what is just. I desire to bear witness to a future in which trans youth may have the freedom to age and grow old, a future in which trans people can retire, that trans couples can celebrate 50 years together. I desire to see trans grandparents and trans great-grandparents. I wish to see the sun rise for a future where trans youth, trans people can live long and happy lives. The fight for a future like this remains in the actions of the present and our continual battle today to do so. Thank you all for being here today, and I wish you all nothing but the very best, that we may live to see a bright future for trans youth. Can we get one final cheer, please? Thank you all, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Neil. I just wanted to reiterate, please do not interact with the gentleman with the cameras, we will not be silent. I also just wanted to say as well, when you're leaving, please leave in big groups. Make sure that obviously you're with people that you trust and that you know. If anyone needs anything after this, we will be at Wharf Chambers just to let you know. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I am very nervous, so if I stutter a little bit, please bear with me. So, my name is Olivia, and I'm here today to represent Trans Leeds, which is a registered charity that provides various support to trans and non-binary people over the age of 18 in Leeds. And I'd like to show you all some things which are personal to me, something related to the service users which we assist, but crucially, there's going to be a bit of a mix of things here. I will join them all together, there are dots, please follow me. So, I'd like to thank you all first for attending. It is fantastic to see such a turnout. Solidarity is the only way we can fight back against oppression. I've known Irish trans for a very long time, and I say that I haven't known, but it was there and I had buried it and I had fought it for years because I thought I was the only person on the earth who felt the way I felt about myself. And at the age of 7 or 8, it never left me alone. And I remember growing up as a child in the 90s and the early 2000s, trans people being treated as a joke. We were the butt of every joke, because no matter what you were watching on TV, whether it was film, or TV, radio, comic books, we were laughed at. We were not understood. We were treated unfairly by the world, and that has to stop. The same jokes that were present in the media are still used to attack us as trans and non-binary people today. Those same things are still being said, and people aren't quiet about it, so we have to stand up and not be quiet either. When I first met another trans person when I was 19, it finally showed me that there wasn't something wrong with me, that I wasn't alone, and none of us are alone. I'm sharing my story now not because I want you to feel sorry for me, but because I want you to know that you're not alone either. And I hear the same beats of the story in the stories of the service users that come to Trans Leeds. I hear it in the people I talk to online, and that cannot stand. And the cash review represents a continuation of that we cannot allow. Many of our service users are over the age of 25, and so are not affected directly by the cash review. Many are not. There are many between the ages of 18 to 25, and I fear for their future. It may be clear really good intentions to improve our quality of care, to
I'm not
protect children,
speaking
neither of
to
those
you.
things. Instead, as we've seen since its introduction,
They're here to intimidate. I told you what he wanted to prove you were saying. He showed the right hand on the camera.
I've been stole the action, I think.
He told him to say, he put it right to the camera, so not yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah.
despite the understanding of the risks involved. Hence, both the role of emotions and connection between feeling and thinking are relevant to how adolescents make their decisions. This section is one that worries me, not for what it particularly says, but for what it doesn't say, but what it is used to build upon later in the report. The medical profession places the age of consent for any procedure upon a patient from the age of 16. Cis girls can consent to being given the pill contraceptives at 13, which have no serious purpose of medical medications. So why, when the age of consent from 16 is the case for almost all
There we go.
Never mind the fact that the study that posited the 25 is when your brain is fully developed factor, has since been picked apart by evidence showing it's wrong or it's right. Soul of those words, I wouldn't blame you. It's a deliberate reviewing of a much older practice to make it seem more palatable and honestly is basically pushing people from exploring whether they're wrong about their own transness, getting them to doubt and desist. The net of this isn't and should never have been exploratory therapy. Call it what it is, conversion therapy. To remove trans people's access to gender-affirming care, to scare them back into the closet, and to remove an entire generation of trans people from existence. The problem with this, the big establishment has not counted on, is not only has the trans community begun to look out for and after each other, but we finally have trans elders, those who survived previous attempts, like Section 28, to make them hide who they really are.
You'll see what's going on.
Stand up here.
And after this knowledge, the youth of us will not stand by idly and let it happen again. So what can we do? I'll admit it is easy to feel hopeless at a time like this, and I know I have. But we're here now, and we're here today. And in taking up space, and it's visible, the great attention to the government of the NHS is allowing and endorsing with the CAS review and every piece of legislation or recommendation like it. I implore you all to call to action. Go home, write to your MPs, write to your councillors, write to the heads of your local NHS trust and tell them you are not time for this. Tell them the impact this will have on you, on your loved ones, on your friends, on your families.
No, we haven't. Back to the mic.
Fuck you, fascists! The language of medicine and psychiatry has often been used to demonize the marginalized. It's free to all bodies to be corrected at all costs. Trans bodies aren't damaged. Gender affirming healthcare is just that. Healthcare.
They're convinced I'm with the Nazis.
Just stay
They're
safe.
convinced despite any evidence.
Stay out
despite me
here.
saying that I'm fucking gay. Don't give them
Oh, no, stay over here,
I've been
you're
lumped in
safe.
with you with, I don't know.
I get lumped in with everyone. Stay out here, you're
To
safer.
be essentially one of the gays, I don't like your mum.
We are never alone.
No, stay here, you're safer. Because there's not that many police.
She was screaming at me.
Yeah.
Did you see her screaming at me?
But I
She
don't.
said, I heard you. I was
I
like,
know, but I don't know if it's the medication they're on. But it seems that I know a few people who are trans, and they've got such. It seems an abnormal, and you know what I mean. They spark off, but I was expecting it to. That I don't know, but just stay here. You're safe. Don't get involved because they've edged up.
Do we need to put a trans flag on?
I don't think it. I think then they'd be offended by that. You can't win. There's a like a thing. I mean, you can never win with the left. You're safer not being. I just stay neutral. But I'll be honest, I wouldn't have turned up if they weren't there, because I wouldn't have felt safe on my own.
I'll always feel safe trying, but
Well, it's
no
just.
one's going to do it to me, are they?
Well, you don't know.
It
You
doesn't
just
matter if
don't
there's 10 of them, I
know.
still want to fight you.
I'm pathetic. I run. I mean, we got assaulted on Wednesday, and it just came out of the blue.
I've been assaulted twice.
Yeah, and when you're not expecting it, it's like people say, "Oh, why didn't you do X, Y, and Z?" And you're going. I mean, some people can react, but I never do. It's like just takes you by surprise.
I had my camera smashed at a Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, well, that's why
And I
these
was
are
one of
just.
the protesters.
Well, these are reconditioned. That's why I'm careful.
Yeah, well, it's 120 quid for the chat proof. So.
Yeah, so at least it is. And if I was you, just put a bit of rubber around it as well.
It's already
add
got
it.
little thing,
Yeah,
it's-
but if you can get, if you can find a bit of rubber or something.
If you just do that,
Yeah.
it sort of protects it a lot.
But if you get a bit of like double like tape or something that's padded, it'll just protect it. God, I thought we were all going to get killed then.
What?
The simple truth is that this is a shocking piece of and it was not based on scientific.
God, that turned heated. That turned heated. I mean, there's only 2 police. If it kicks off, I don't think they'll be able to do a lot.
Almost 4 years. We have had 6 weeks really to kind of put together a response, and there's not enough time. So bear with us. We are writing a detailed critique of the accident which we will publish in due course, and I will be involved in that process. Others will be involved in that process, and I want to speak as some of the short comments of the council today. first of all,
Yeah.
evidence-based.
You don't need to go across them.
That trans youth go through a process of differential diagnosis and exploratory therapy. And it's my professional view, having worked with trans kids for over 10 years, that this is tantamount to conversion therapy. And simply and NHS England, like many other professional organisations, have signed up to the Memorandum of Understanding on Conversion Therapy. And basically what that Memorandum of Understanding says is that any attempts at conversion therapy, any attempts at conversion therapy to change somebody's gender identity or sexuality is without evidence base, it's unethical, and it's harmful to those who are subjected to those practices. And yet, despite that, NHS England moving forward with effectively exploratory therapy that many professionals, myself included, believe are tantamount to conversion therapy. This is completely unethical. What is NHS that's the simple truth of it. And you take classes in mind if she thinks that the proposals that she in the best interest of trans there are always going to be a number of people who come to gender services, who come to child and adolescent services, for whom hormone blocker treatment appropriate treatment in class is denying access for those young people. I've worked with many of those young people who move on to hormone blockers and thriving in life. There are many parents who come forward and give testimony to that effect, and yet like this, there will be challenged in the courts. That is where things, the direction that things are heading. To that effect, can I just bring to people's attention that this week, the Good Law Project please show that live because this is a mechanism by which we can change things through force. And today's rally as well, I think, was a starting point. This is not the end. We're not letting it break. We're not intimidated. I would suggest that what we're doing is a national day of action. There are seven NHS regional offices all over the country, and I suggest that we be contacting trans support organisations in other cities to try and organise a national day of action that we picket the NHS offices at some day later in the summer, because I think that is really what's needed. But again, just let me speak about a few things on the issue. The methodology for start. When you're doing a review of medical evidence, there are certain methodologies that are acceptable and there are certain methodologies that are not. For example, our colleagues in Germany have just completed a 7-year review of hormone blocker treatment, and they used what's called the Delphi methodology. What that means is it's a consensus-based model with over 100 clinicians, experts in the field, came together, looked at the evidence, drew the conclusions over a long period of time, and that consensus model resulted in the German healthcare system endorsing the use of hormone blocker treatment for trans youth. And yes, we in the UK 50-50 review. We don't have a consensus model. We don't have experts in the field involved in the case review. Instead, we've got Hilary, a person who is a non-expert in gender. She's never worked with trans kids in her life. She's a paediatrician by background. Not that she's a very good paediatrician. However, she has no experience of working with trans kids. And I'm one of the people who has met with Hilary Cass on several occasions, both as a staff group with kids and in fact at least 4 one-to-one meetings with Hilary Cass. And I was completely unimpressed. Let me just add that this idea about the evidence, and she's looked at the evidence, no she hasn't, she's describing any studies that look at the positive impact of transaffirmative. She held a literature review, rejected the studies that look at transaffirmative healthcare. And do you know the reason why that happened? Because there are gender critical clinicians who are integral part of the Cass review, and the subject access matter person who is screening the papers for the Cass review is a well-known gender critical psychologist. I raised this with Hilary Cass and she denied that the person had been critical, despite me being well-known gender critical person. And I know there are views on trans people and very disrespectful, but there's a cohort of experts clinicians who have very disrespectful views on trans people. Many of these people have been one single study that would support the use of DBT or CBT. Hilary Cass said to me, you'll have to wait until the literature review comes out. She couldn't even name a single study to support the main recommendations of her own report. And this is 3 years in. This is not at the very beginning, this is 3 years in. So my challenge to Hilary Cass is, where's your evidence? Where is your evidence? Where is your evidence for Where is your evidence for CBT or DBT or the type in relation to what you're proposing for trans kids? Exploratory therapy is conversion therapy, and it's is simply not good enough. These guys if they think they're going to intimidate me, you know, I'm from Glasgow, mate. What we see here from these guys is symptomatic of some of the change that's happened for trans people in this country over the past few years. 20 years ago, it used to be respectful kind of discourse in relation to trans people. And now, a politically motivated right-wing press, guys like this, think that it's okay to disrespect the lived experience of trans people. Well, it isn't, and it's not, and it never will be. And again, this is something that they have raised directly with the KCAS and with NHS England. As I mentioned earlier, I worked in public service for almost 10 years. The first 7 years that I worked there, I was aware of one suicide related to the service.
Stand up here. Oh, she's happy. You're here.
Maybe I could interview you. I just missed it on camera, but I saw her chasing you around with an umbrella.
7 years. And then, on the 1st of December 2020, was the day that the courts reported with the initial...
So they threatened to arrest you?
Judgment
I can see CJ getting nicked, you know. He's pushing his luck a bit.
Within hours of that judgment,
No, she said safe distance, she's happy. Oh, hey, I don't know. Oh, there we go. I know, they're foolish. Stay here, you're safer. Well, that's what they think of as the left wing. We're filled. She's horrible, is that woman. She's been funny with me a few times. I just smile at her. No. She hates it because I'm never nasty to her. Then she's no weapon against me. Oh yeah. I told you they'll kick off today. Probably because there's only like 4 police and they're scared to death if it kicks off. There's more of them than us. It's safer to ask you to move away than risk a whole riot. That's what they've been doing. I mean, normally, I presume the police have got cameras going, but I'm surprised how few police actually here. Because like I said, the Posey Parker thing, they literally had a full riot. I know. But I don't think the protest can be going on much longer, so I mean, what time is it? It's coming up to 3 o'clock. Well, no, they can't be much longer. I mean, the problem they've got is these speeches are boring. They should have shortened them down.
the restrictions on trans healthcare cost lives. And I also fact that today, as we speak, with further restrictions in trans healthcare, that as we speak, we appeal to suicide watch for kids because they have lost all hope. And that is a shock. That is an absolute shock. Some people seem to think it's funny that trans kids are losing their lives, but that reflects more on them as individuals than it does on us. We have got the ethical high ground in this debate. Trans lives are not up for debate. Trans lives are valid, and we must protect trans kids.
Hello. Thank you everyone today for your resilience and for showing up and showing these fascists that we will not be silenced. All I feel at the moment is a sense of our strong community, and I love every single one of you for coming out today and turning up. I also just want to say as well that, you know, it's all well and good that we've got people here laughing about people literally committing suicide, but at the end of the day, that's a reflection of themselves, and at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be on the wrong side of history, not us.
You've all turned up pretty angry. And if anybody needs to get up to speed on why we're here, you haven't been listening to the speeches that all my lovely predecessors have been giving, then feel free to ask, because we are here to tell you what is going on. And that goes for everybody that can hear me in Leeds right now. I want you to harness that, because that is the driving force. That is the thing, along with passion, the compassion, is the thing that is going to drive us forward into being able to make some productive change, I hope. But I can also imagine, at the same time as that some of you are feeling pretty blue, because this isn't the kind of reality we thought we were going to be dealt, huh? But the thing I wanted to say was, if this hall can know, then so can we. And now, because I've been reading all this stuff tonight, and listening to a really good garbage song last night, I know that I got not my idea of it. I bit my tongue and stood in line with not much to believe in. I bought into what I was sold and ended up with nothing. This is not my idea of a good time. This is not my idea of a good time. This is not my idea. Painted with the same fan brushes that I use to apply my highlighter. To the high points of my severe and gorgeous cheekbones. Yet another thing that makes us shine. you all for being here, and I really, I'm sure it makes everybody's day to see each other exercising our right to come together as a community. Okay? Ceasefire now! 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 Ceasefire now!
Hello everyone, I'm here with Saltbet, who have helped to organise this rally. We wanted to say a few things about the CASH review. The very same review that comments on the trans experience based on assumptions of conversion therapists. Not exactly the most unbiased source. The same review that intentionally ignores peer-reviewed research in support of transgender people deserving the right to life-saving healthcare in favour of its own agenda. Gender-affirming healthcare is life-saving healthcare for so many trans people. Everybody deserves the right to self-expression and most of all, the freedom, and that is a right that is not granted to trans people today in the UK as it is to the cis people. And the fact that the CASH review calls for a total ban on that very freedom for any trans person under 25 is morally despicable and will no doubt lead to higher rates of depression and even suicide in transgender youth and adults. This review isn't just any old newspaper article, it is a legal government-sanctioned document, and as such, the government will be using this anti-science review to introduce laws to this country, laws which will immeasurably harm the trans community. That means that our government is complicit in the suicides which their actions will facilitate. And I just want to say as well, to any police officers here today, if you actually care about trans people, you will quit your job because you will be the ones enforcing these laws. To finish off, I'd like to urge and encourage you to keep fighting, keep going till the rallies like this one, and continue being as loud as you can. Use your passions, your skills, and your talents to help organize more protests when your screams are not being heard. There is strength in numbers, and together we can challenge the government's authority. Tell other people what to do with their bodies. Remember, if you are silent about your struggle, they'll take your rights away and tell you it was for your own good. And tell the fascists that are here, you're not gonna win. You're all fucking Nazis. We beat them before and we'll beat them again.
Thank you everyone so much for coming today. I think this is the end of the rally now, so I think we are out of speakers. So yeah, we're going to clean up and we're going to finish now. I just want to remind everyone to leave in groups. We will be meeting up afterwards at Wharf Chambers as sort of like a safe space if anyone needs it. I know that today has been a lot. But yeah, thank you all for coming. I love you all.
think we best lead in groups.
Yeah.
I think we're not safe in.
You get going. I'm okay, I'm on a bike, but if I was you, I'd get going just to keep safe. Just keep an eye, no one follows you though. I mean, I can zoom on that, I'm okay. The chance of anyone running after me.
Well, I can check anyone here, but...
Yeah, well, you don't want to, do you?
No, not really.
No, just, I don't think anything will happen, but... Oh, they're arresting somebody. So as people split, this is going to be the spark point. That's why I'm standing here and safe. I think.
If everybody could disperse and not hang around here, that'd be great. Make sure you leave in groups, no one leaves by yourself. And if everybody leaves as soon as possible, when some people are milling around, that's when it goes wrong.
Mark, you know what we do best.
Everyone can make sure they start the Thursday, that'd be great.
The thing is, like, the jump. You know, like, I could watch. I want to do it. I'm going to do this in fact on the video. Like, it's just going to prove it right, guys. They react to the camera for whatever reason. I can't figure that out. Can't figure it out. And I don't mean they buy any product we go to.
Ooh,
See the camera and they immediately start calling them Zionists or antagonists, all the things. They, because their reaction called it.
So if they'd have ignored you, you wouldn't have, you had all the power then, you'd be got the same reaction.
They were having their talk, speech to care, you know, people here to hear, listen. Everyone should listen to it. Around that time,
No, we'll be out
shame on you. Unbelievable. That's not moving. Absolutely. It was a mass against the usually they debating against the